Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me try again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Much better. I call this meeting of Lemar Toastmaster 6440 to order. Before we proceed with the meeting, please silence your cell phone. I would like to ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Please Please help me welcome this morning our Toastmaster, Rich Massa.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for, it's an honor for me to be your Toastmaster today. I want to go over some agenda changes. If you look at your agenda for today, Nicole cannot make it, so if anybody wants to volunteer to give a last-minute speech, because you can put that first down. It is accentuated. I don't know if I can make this meeting last an hour. The topic for today is daylight savings time. We're going to go over the history and what daylight savings time is. We're going to go over the pros and the cons of daylight savings time, and also how does it affect us. First, before we begin, I'd like to introduce our technical table. First, we'd like to introduce our grammarian, Stephen Morgan. Please, Stephen, can you please stand up and tell us your role, please?
Mr. Toastmaster, as grammarian, I'm here to expand your vocabulary and analyze your use of the English language. Word of the day, you see little sheets on the table in front of you. The word of the day is axiomatic. That is how it's pronounced. It particularly means self-evident or unquestionable, obviously true, or based on involving an axiom or a system of axioms. Axiom would be a stated fact that has been proven true. Examples, it is axiomatic that good athletes have a strong mental attitude, or it's axiomatic that the instinct for self-preservation is universal throughout the animal kingdom. For those of you who are members, I've already given your icebreaker. You have a chance to speak, find a way to use the word, or pay a quarter. I'll also be listening to the use of the English language and reporting particularly deplorable and occasional interesting uses to the general evaluator at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Stephen. He is axiomatic, and I'm sure you will be an amazing grammarian today. Next on our technical table is our time, I'm sorry, not our timer, our ah counter, which I'm sure you'll be listing a lot of ahs from me today. Please welcome Kerry Bird.
As ah counter, it is my function to listen for the use of filler words such as you know, so, okay, and, but, you know, and other audible pauses. I will also be noting if members perform any double clutches, which means to say something twice, such as this means, this means. Its infractions are 5 cents, and I will treasure real quick the non-retired report.
Thank you. Next, our timer. Please welcome Macarena Torres.
All right,
My function is to time the speakers, evaluators, and table topic participants to ensure they meet the timing requirements. I will demonstrate the timing lights, which will be displayed as follows. Speakers, green, 5 minutes, yellow, 6 minutes, and red, 7 minutes. Table topics, green, 30 seconds, yellow, 45 seconds, and red, 1 minute. And evaluators, 2 minutes for green, yellow, 2.5, and red, 3. At the end of each segment, meeting, I will report the timing results.
All right, thank you, Margarita. Shall we begin?
We shall.
What is daylight savings time? We all know what it is. We just experienced it. It is the act that in the fall, we fall back, we put the clock back 1 hour. And then what just happened recently, we spring ahead and we put the clocks forward. But does anybody know why we do this? Well, this practice started back when, you can put that down, the New Zealand entomologist George Vernon Hudson. He was a shift worker, and he was an entomologist, and he enjoyed going out and discovering insects at night. So he proposed that we the original concept was to go ahead 2 hours. So basically, all of us are inconvenienced because this guy wanted to study bugs. It was originally introduced in 1895 as far as a paper, and then it was actually implemented in Austria-Hungary, April 30th, 1916. Many countries have implemented it since then, and it was especially used during the energy crisis in the 1970s. That's enough of that. Let's go on to our speeches and our entertainment for today. The introduction of our first speech, Finding the True Meaning of Leadership. I would like to introduce the well-dressed man, the man that dresses for success, the man of style. Please welcome our first speech with Are Leaders Born or Are They Made? Please welcome Lemar Williams.
Rich, thank you. And by the way, great style. Takes one to know one, right?
Exactly.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So my speech today is only a continuation of my icebreaker speech. And that was a brief story of my life. And that story, I kept on saying, it's not all about me, right? And I repeated that so many times that you almost forgot that I actually mentioned something else to you that day. I enjoy studying leadership. A little bit odd, right? You don't meet too many people that say, woo, can't wait to study some leadership. Can't get enough of it. Probably not the first topic of choice, but for Toastmasters this morning, I can't think of any better topic. So the title of my speech today is Are Leaders Born or Are They Made? Now, before I answer that question, let me tell you a story. About a year ago, I approached the pastor of my church, and I said, we should really consider creating a course on leadership. It'd be great for our church and our community. And he told me, Lemar, we tried in the past, but no one ever attends them. But you're still welcome to do one on your own. And I said, okay. I read all the books I possibly could on leadership, and I was just overwhelmed with the amount of information I received. And I was ready to give up. Until I was introduced to someone who shared the same passion as I did. And in that time, we just sat down over a nice Greek lunch. We met multiple times, and we talked about leadership. And in a matter of 6 months, we created a course. Now, we have a course in place. How do you get people in the course? So I was the man chosen to get in front of my church to inspire them to take a course on leadership. And keep in mind now, I've never been a fan of public speaking. I've never spoken at my church before. But I was ready for that day. You know why? A week before, I did my icebreaker. My fellow Toastmasters. I said, boy, I was ready to go. And I stepped up to the podium. You know what? I was cool on the other side of the pillow. I paused for a moment. I stood there. I let him wait for it. And I asked a question. Raise your hand if you think of yourself as a leader. So at our church, we had 3 services. So I asked this question 3 times, about 100 people in each service. So for service number 1, when I asked the question, raise your hand if you think of yourself as a leader? They looked at me. I looked back at them. They looked around. Not one hand. 0. All right. Service number 2. Raise your hand if you think of yourself as a leader. They looked at me. I looked back at them. Crickets were chirping so loudly. No hand in sight. All right, last chance. Service number 3. Raise your hand if you think of yourself as a leader. 3 hands came up. We have leaders. 3 leaders. It's like, all right, that's a start. Now, of course, there's more to my story than that one question. My speech does go on. But I'll get to that in a minute. But first, I'd like to ask you all here, what is your definition of a leader? And for the sake of time, I'm going to ask Siri.
Siri not available.
She's still sleeping. Okay. If Siri was awake right now, Siri would say a leader is someone who rules someone else. Someone who inspires. Which is not a terrible definition, but it's a very weak definition of leadership. One of my favorite authors is Ken Blanchard. And he wrote a timeless book called The 1 Minute Manager. But he also wrote another book. And that book was Lead Like Jesus. And in that book, I saw a definition of leadership that just blew my mind. He said, leadership is the process of influence. Anytime you seek to influence the thinking, behavior, or the development of a person in their life, you are taking the role as a leader. So leadership starts with influence. So how do you get the influence of other people? How do you motivate anyone to do anything? Let's think about this for a second. What motivates us? It's either fear or love, right? Now let's think about fear for a second. Fear is you're at work and you're slacking off a little bit. And your boss is like, get back to work or you're fired. You're like, okay, boss. It's that fear motivation, right? You get back to work. Or you're at home with your kids. And you said, eat your vegetables. Or you're in timeout. I don't want timeout, right? That's motivation. But now, is fear a really effective way to motivate? Short-term results, yes, absolutely, it does wonders. Long-term results, fear, you can't develop a relationship on fear alone. So now, what about love? What does love got to do? What about love? I get these wonderful magazines in the mail from Toastmaster. Do you see the bottom of my garbage can? But there was one magazine. There's one magazine that really caught my eye. The title of this magazine, Leading with Love. Amazing. So let's see what Toastmaster says about leading with love. It says leaders can be successful and care about employees by implementing patience, kindness, trust, unselfishness, forgiveness, and dedication anytime they interact with their coworkers. And I pass this around so you guys can read it. Now let me get back to my original story. So, I asked 300 people if they thought of themselves as leaders. And I got 4 responses that said yes. And that podium was very quiet. But you know what I did at that moment when there were no responses? I smiled. Because I had them exactly where I wanted them. So I asked them a follow-up question. I asked them, raise your hand if you have the ability to love. all their hands went up. And I said, okay. So if you have the ability to love, don't you have the ability to create a relationship? And if you have that ability to create a relationship, don't you have the ability to influence? So wait, so if you have the ability to influence, doesn't that mean you have the ability to lead? Some eyebrows were raised that day. So back to my original question, the topic of the entire speech, are leaders born or are they made? I say leaders are made. It just requires someone to believe that they are a leader. And I think this is especially important when you talk about kids. Kids need people that believe in them to make them leaders. And I'm a chairman of an annual golf tournament that we hold every year at the Heathrow Country Club. And the tournament is going to be March 30th, so I can sign up. And it's called Tomorrow's Leaders Golf Tournament. And it supports a preschool and after-school program. And we're always looking for company sponsors, players, and I'm going to hand out some brochures. Just pass that along. And I just encourage you to get involved, and that's my little promo and my speech. Thank you.
Please put 1 minute on the clock for evaluations.
And Nicole said I could take her time, so. Oh, thank you.
Recruiting people out here, sorry.
What are you gonna do? Proofread. All right, pens down, thank you. What are the pros and cons of having daylight savings time? I had to do a lot of research on this, whole 5 minutes. Number one, I'm just gonna go through 3 since we love the power of 3s. Number one pro of daylight savings time is energy use. We use less electricity the longer the sun's out. We use less lights. Nationwide, we use about 3.5% less electricity during daylight savings time the longer the sun is out. Spread across the whole country, that's going to save a lot of money. Number 2, health benefits. People stay active longer because the sun's out. You'll see people walking their dogs, they're biking, they're running. Obviously, being more active, you're going to have more health benefits. I, as a trainer, love that. Number 3, businesses make more money. People tend to shop more during the afternoon the longer the sun's out. One story I have is I used to be a bartender, and we used to love spring forward daylight savings time because we got to serve another hour. And I will tell you one thing, having that extra hour, we knew the drunker your customer is, the bigger your tip is, and the crazier the day got. That joke was supposed to go over much better than that.
I'm crazy, right?
We can't go into these stories in this forum. The cons of daylight savings time. We lose an hour of sleep. I'm sure we all love that. The inconvenience of changing our clocks. Most of our technology, your iPhones, iPads, your Androids, they change their clocks on their own. But we have to remember to change our watches, our car stereos, and any technology does not automatically baby us enough to change the clock for us. Number 3, your body has to adjust. By a show of hands, how many of us feel a little off the first couple of weeks after daylight savings time?
Pull off right now.
Yeah. We are off a few weeks because our body has a time clock. And with that time clock, it takes a few weeks for our bodies to adjust back to normal. Now on to our next speech. It is my honor and my privilege to introduce my mentor. The introduction our final speaker has to say is growing up in Harlem, USA was such an adventure, she has to share it, and she's asking for help. Please welcome the myth, the legend, the lady with the silver tongue, Stephany Burr!
I think I better change my speech after that. The air was sweltering, sultry, smothering. A green-gray, murky mass threatened to engulf what remained of the daylight. The prisoners huddled, dejected, on a metal trap door, 6 feet by 5, about a half dozen, as I recollect. I was one of them. Hopeless, no way of escape. We wondered, how would we get out? There were 2 eagle-eyed guards with a look of determination etched on their face, vigilant on their post. No way would there be a rescue or escape this night. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, welcome guests. We have been captured playing a time-honored favorite game, a street game in New York. It was summer, Harlem. And we played hard, we played to win. How many people have heard of Ringling Levio? Anybody? It was a street game played all over the country, but it came out of the streets of New York. But in Harlem, we had another edition, the big boy version. It was called Ringling Coco 1, 2, 3. It was superior to the original in that we had no calling of games because of night. Our borders were extended, and we played with honor at stake. We played as though the rent depended upon it, and we won. Most of the time, we won. Back to this night. First, let me tell you how it's played, since all have never played the game. It's an elaborate game of hide and seek and tag. You've got 2 teams, equal number of players. One goes out, hides, and after a specified amount of time, the seek and search group goes out, capture them, bring them back, and put them in a jail, a holding cell, guarded by 1 or 2, depending on how many people were playing. Our borders were like this. 1/2 of a city block on one side of the avenue, 1/2 of a city block on the other side. This included rooftops and alleys, but no indoor areas, no basements, no stores, nothing inside. That was out of bounds. So you played within this parameter. Our most favorite method of escape or sneaking around were cars, parked cars. You crouched and you darted up and you rescued your captured teammates by saying, Ringling Coco 1, 2, 3, free! And those captured could run out and the game began anew. Now when the search and seizure came and they got you and you were tagged out, they dragged you back to the jail. If you were esteemed honorable, you could go back on your own. You would announce, I've been captured, I'm tagged out. But a smart guard would tag you out anyway, because they were fakers. Would walk up and say, we've been tagged out, and then say, free! Everybody would escape. So while they're guarding the prisoners and watching you coming in, they would tag you out for good measure. And you stood, and you waited. Back to this night. As darkness descended, hope sprang up. Because wasn't there one operative still out there? And he, we knew, operated best under the cover of night. Ricky was still at large. How would he do this? There were 2 guards instead of the usual one. Could he pull it off? Would we be saved? Our honor was at stake. Back in those days, I had good peripheral vision. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something lurking. Deadpan. Don't alert the guards. Something took shape. Silent signals, we paused, ready to flee. Then all of a sudden, we saw and heard, "Ringling Go-Go, 1, 2, 3, free!" He had pulled off the most exciting rescue in all time, in the history of the game. He had done it, heroic, outstanding, and done. For there, on this metal grate, lay a crumpled Ricky. Victory on his face, but also pain. For he had jumped from the 2nd floor roof down onto this base to free his captured teammates. Ringling Coco, 1, 2, 3. This is the Toastmaster.
One, if not 2 minutes on the clock for evaluations. Could have waited a little longer there, Stephany. Just saying. Straight attention. Okay, evaluation's over. I don't know exactly what to say there.
Pencils down.
Pens down. How does daylight savings time affect us? We just mentioned before that our body has to adjust, it's inconvenient. How does it affect us? I'm sure we all have a story where we forgot it was daylight savings time. It just affected me recently. I am moving, so I was packing my house, I just wanted to relax. I had a couple glasses of wine, watched a movie. I woke up, I was like, man, I slept in today. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, but my stove said 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much daylight savings time can affect you. My whole day was off, I wanted to pack my house that day. So, write that down. I would like to go around the room, and I would like to have 3 volunteers say how the daylight savings time, it doesn't have to be this year, affected them. And we have plenty of time for us to wait for volunteers.
We're waiting for the hour back.
Yeah, I can tell we're a little off here too. So, yes.
Growing up in Hawaii, we don't do Growing up in Hawaii, we don't do daylight savings time. So it has affected me because it's just really weird and strange. My husband, I had friends who moved from Hawaii one year, and I don't remember if it was spring or fall, but they said, oh, we have to change the clocks. And I said, yes, you have to change it back, which was wrong at that time, if we were supposed to change it forward. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I lived here for like 20 years, of course, this is what you do. So the next day I saw him, we were at church, and he had gotten there 2 hours early because I had told him the wrong time. And so I'm not ever in charge of daylight savings time because I don't know how to do it.
Okay. Thank you. this randomly. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sam, okay.
Alright, so I am a morning bird, and the best time for me to get my homework done is actually in the morning. So what I'll usually do is I'll go to bed around 10, 11 or so, and I'll wake up around 3 or 4, and I'll get to whatever amount I can get done throughout the day. Daylight savings prevents me with a predicament because I either lose or gain an hour of study time. So depending on whether I am gaining or losing that extra hour of sleep, my grades are directly influenced.
Thank you, Sam. We have one more. Any stories? Julia?
All
Oh,
right.
this is gonna be good.
It's not, I'm fine. It's a clean story. I
quit.
I absolutely love daylight savings time when it's in the fall because you gain that extra hour. But I'm telling you, it is really rough in the spring when you lose it. Love the extra daylight, but man, it's really rough because I'm a morning person too, and I feel the effects of it. That's my story.
No, thank you for sticking to it. Thank you for the volunteers for sharing their story. Now it's on to the portion of our show that our speakers have to think on their feet. Please welcome Table Topics Master, Sam Bailey.
So I'm a little oxymus, or doubtful of my ability to do this morning because my voice has been killing me. Yes, how do you pronounce that irrational word?
It counts. It counts.
Master Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, let's take a moment of silence for the bunches of burnt coffee, stubbed pinky toes, and speeding fines that have been a direct occurrence of the injustice of daylight savings. Here. How has daylight savings affected your morning routine? Hadi. Yes. What?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. My answer perfectly sums it up. What? I tend to be a very nocturnal person. In fact, I prefer to sleep at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m. And so daylight savings doesn't really apply to me, except for the massive inconvenience of cutting my sleep from 1 hour to 0. Thank you.
Now, usually the room is a little more packed, and I have more of a selection to pick from as guests, and people in general. However, today, unfortunately, our guests will also be part of the drawing. However, I will come back to you later. So my guest, Benjamin Franklin was actually the first person to come up with the idea of daylight savings. However, it was in a humorous manner in reference to saving candles. Describe a time when something you said that was meant to be a joke was taken in a more grim manner.
This should be easy.
Mr. Tabletop Master, thank you for that very axiomatic question. I'm trying to think of a good story that probably would be clean, where I've taken out of context, but usually it ends up pretty well. So, can I think of a story off the top of my head? No, that's the problem. Because when your story's vast, many years of knowledge and traveling to faraway lands and experiencing great cultures, they all kind of come into one small moment where you lack sleep, and then here we are at Table Topics now. I really don't know what to say. So that's my answers. I really don't know.
Now, Benjamin Franklin's idea was largely overlooked until it came again in 1907 by an Englishman named William Willett. Now, what was a time when you had an idea that had to be put on ice, but later proved to be very beneficial? Julia.
I am so glad you asked me that question. I have so many ideas on that topic where, if you had just listened to me, it would have been all right. Probably the one that comes to mind is something at work, actually. It's a project I've been working on for a lot of years. And I won't bore you with the details, but it's something that is finally, after 8 years of work, is seeing fruition. And people doubted that it could happen. It's a POS implementation in the UK, and we are finally seeing results. And that's a great feeling when didn't have too many people backing you up in the beginning. But now, as it's turning into a profitable project, we're seeing results. That's what I think.
Now, timer, please go ahead and whenever it comes ready for me to be silent, just let me know, because I'm doing my very best to kill as much time as possible, and I have BS'd multiple questions, so I can go on.
I'll go again if you want.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Alrighty, well, for our next question. Although several countries had already been implementing daylight savings, the US did not start even considering it until the First World War. What are some methods that, and the reason for it actually, forgive me, was to save energy during that time? There was a lot of different conservations that were put in place to help with funding for the Great War. Our new guest, if you are willing. What are some methods that you have employed to save energy around your home?
Well, that's easy.
Hello, everybody. Are there any rules to this? Or
No, whatever's on your
There's
mind.
usually
about
60
60
seconds if
seconds.
you can make it.
60 seconds if
30,
you can.
yeah.
30. Okay, so some new, I'm sorry, what was the, can you repeat the question?
Some different ways that you have saved energy around your house.
Well, funny story. So I'm married and I have 2 kids. So my husband, growing up in Oklahoma, he would always say that his father would never turn the AC on. So sometimes just to torture our children, we just don't turn the AC on right in the middle of summer, just to show them, just so that they can appreciate having electricity. So that's what we do, and we get a kick out of it. A little, you know, and it never hurts to torture the kids a little bit. So that's how I save energy. Thank you.
On the topic of torturing people, when the good Lord Almighty created the heavens and the earth and separated day from night, He did not create them to bicker and argue over whose turn it was first and to ruin my precious sleep. What is the time that 2 other people were having an argument? However, them taking time to decide whether or not they should go with that decision directly affected you, Lori. I saw your puzzled face, I apologize.
That's what I always look at. What is a time when there was an
When 2
argument?
people making a decision and them taking that extra time directly influenced you.
Mr. Table Topics Master. That happened this morning. I too have children, 2 of them live at home. They're adults, but they sometimes don't act like adults. And my husband, who is a really great dad, makes lunches and breakfast for everyone. So it's really great. My son, who is an adult, like I said, didn't tell his dad if he needed to work, he was going to work or not. And if you don't work, you don't get your lunch made. So my husband at 4 o'clock this morning said, do you know if he's going to work? I said, I don't know. And he said, go in there. I don't want to wake him up if he's not going to work. So I said, well, why do I have to go in there to wake him up? So I said, I knocked on the door and I said, are you going to work? No answer. And I said, well, why don't you just either make the lunch or don't make the lunch? It doesn't really matter. Either he can make it himself or you can make it and it will sit. I just don't understand that. So I think the argument was between my husband and myself. Mr. Table Topics.
Well, unfortunately, I have exhausted all of my resources in extending the time. Toastmaster.
I'm not gonna bother bringing up my iPad because I have as well exhausted all my resources. But being talented and very intelligent, I have come up with a way to extend our time a few more minutes. This is non-negotiable. Timer, we're gonna need your help here. I'm gonna need 3 volunteers. I'm gonna put 1 minute on the clock, and then we're gonna do something called, we're gonna play a game called Speed Speaker. Oh, we got Hadi, we got Sam. Let's have, and Stephany, come on up. Come on up.
This is an
Line them all up, come on. No evaluations, open topic. Okay, we're going to have somebody volunteer a topic and you have to speak on it for 1 minute. Mike! I knew you would jump at the chance.
Yes.
You have to come up with a topic for Sam. Sam, you're going to have 1 minute on the clock.
Is this your payback?
In order to speak on a topic for 1 minute. Go.
Frankenstein.
Go.
The abominable monster. The creation that had all mankind ravished in fear. Toastmaster.
Oh.
Fellow guests and fellow Toastmasters. As I am jumbling over my words in fear, as so I would quake in the greatness of this monster, put together as if it was a platypus. Seriously, what was this guy thinking? He just grabbed some random body parts out of a graveyard and then said, bam, I got a kid. Little did he think that he would have it come on out and it would strangle him, a couple of the other people, catch the town on fire, and everything else. Man, this sounds like my future ex-wife.
Awesome.
Man, alimonies, child pay, college funds. How could we ever? Man, no, don't get married. That's what it is. I here now at Toastmasters set a new proposal. Instead of calling it engagement, we should now call it the creation of Frankenstein. Thank you.
Alexander, topic.
Axiomatic.
Yes, that's your topic.
Okay.
Wow.
It is axiomatic that this is a difficult topic. Let's see. Whenever I think of the word axiom, I unfortunately think back to my PhD where I had to go through a lot of axioms.
Oh.
I say this to scare Mike out of coming into a PhD program. Why he considers it, I have no idea. But Mike, if I can't handle a PhD program, you should seriously consider
The axiom.
That's what I was thinking about. Let's see, okay, so axioms, let me describe it for you. So basically it's some sort of rule, okay, some sort of fact, as Steve said. In research, it's like a bunch of mathematics, they come up with some mathematical proof no one can make sense of, they call it an axiom, and then they build their whole case on that. Take economics, for example. It's all based on a rule that people think rationally. That's a bunch of crap, so. All of economics is basically based on a bunch of crap. That's all I got.
Is that what And now for Stephany, who wants to come up with Stephany's topic? Whoa, we have 2. Let's hear both of them and we're gonna vote. Julie, what's your topic?
Outdoors.
Outdoors.
Yes.
What's your topic?
Sharknado.
Shark. We're gonna have to go. Hang on, do you know what Sharknado is?
Now, it is a movie to where a tornado comes and there happens to be sharks inside the tornado and they fly around eating people. It is one of the most...
All right, let's take order in the court. We're gonna combine the topic. You have to come up with a story that explains that fear of being outdoors during a Sharknado.
Mentee,
I'm sorry.
you got it coming. What the HE double hockey sticks am I doing up here again? Self-torture. The sheer shark, needles, outdoors. Shark? What is this? Who are you people? First of all, let me say this. I don't like it outdoors. I am a hothouse bred exotic. I don't like outdoors. I grew up in New York. I like the streets. I don't like bugs and weasels and burrowing things and armadillos and lizards and all of this stuff that you have here and you call Florida. So I'm indoors under the air conditioner as much as possible, although I do like your style. And as far as being in a tornado caught up with something that's outdoors, I think that would be interesting. I think that would be a lot of fun to see people's houses and trailers and campers and all of that good stuff floating around and swinging around. Sharp needles or sharp needles?
Sharknado. It's a
Like
Sharknado?
tornado.
Oh! I thought you were talking about sharp needles that got the dentist using it now. Oh, my mistake, silly me. I don't like that either. Just the topic.
Thank you for having such a great sense of humor.
I'm gonna get ready for another hour of sleep.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, my time has come to an end as Table Toastmaster. Hopefully you had as much fun as I did, and hopefully the daylight savings time has not affected this meeting as much as we hoped. I would like to turn the lectern over to our master, yes. Oh, sorry, to our master evaluator. Please give her a big round of applause, Julia Kaufman.
You're not inspired this morning, I don't know what. All right, it's this part of our meeting, it's the educational part. This is where we get our axiomatic feedback from our evaluators for our speakers. We're going to get right to it. Our first evaluator will be Lori Richards, who will be evaluating Lemar's speech. Please welcome Lori Richards.
Thank you, Julia, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Lemar, were you giving speech number 2 or speech number 4?
Number 2.
Okay. Okay, whatever.
It's the second speech, but it's topic 4, I think. You mean topic 4, how to say it? Or?
Yeah, I didn't proofread the meeting agenda, so I might have forgot to hit the save button, so sorry about that.
No, that's okay. No, Lemar, what I really liked about your speech is that you came up and you owned the room immediately. You helped the Toastmaster move the podium away, and you also had a really good rapport with him, joking around. So you looked really comfortable up here. Your introduction also included a personal story, which was, I've been told is really effective, and it is effective. I have not been able to employ that technique yet, but I'm glad that you are, because you helped to show me that, you know, it's something that I need to aspire to. The other thing that I really liked about your speech is that you handled setback really well when Siri wasn't available. You looked just really confident, like you had given a lot of instruction, or you already have you already held all of your seminars? Because it looks like you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obvious. You're really, really good at that. I also liked that you had a little bit of singing in there. What's love got to do with it? One thing that I think that would have helped me is you gave us the definition by Ken Blanchard of what leadership is. If it would have helped me if you would have repeated that at least another time, because it was kind of lengthy and I didn't have enough time to write it down. So I think that's maybe just one suggestion. I also like the way that you tied your conclusion was effective because you tied it back into your story. So I think you did a really great job on 2, 3, and 4, whichever speech it was. So it's I believe it's axiomatic that you're a really great speaker. I try not to use the word great, so I had to print out a bunch of adjectives. I didn't use my sheet today because I used the word great. But thank you, Lemar, for being talented and lively.
Lori, our second evaluation, I have a feeling will prove just as entertaining. Please welcome Hadi as he will evaluate Stephany's speech.
Madam General Evaluator, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. As I walked up to the lector and Mike said, "Good luck," and it's totally true. So Stephany. I need the luck already. One of the main things that I looked at for this speech was that the audience was engaged. And I looked around the room, especially at the beginning, everyone's heads were, leaned a little forward, focusing on what you had to say. And throughout the speech, their eyes were fixed on you. So I would say that they were extremely engaged in your speech, which I think is a general trend. I was definitely engaged. I could visualize the streets of Harlem, and I could imagine you playing there. I imagined what it would be like if I were playing there as well. I thought that the use of questions were great. When you use questions in your speech, like could he pull it off? Could Ricky come over and save us? I thought that really helped to build the suspense, and it helped to build the picture. Like, oh my God, are you guys gonna make it? Kind of thing. You had asked me to specifically look at your hand movements and your vocal variety. I thought your hand movements were great. Just describing the cell, the blocks on the street. I don't remember what else you described, to be honest, but I do remember that you were constantly using your hands to paint the picture. And you also had very small hand movements and then very wide hand movements when you were describing, for example, the game or something like that. And whenever you weren't using your hands to describe, they were well fixed. I didn't feel like they were awkward in any way, shape, or form. In terms of your vocal variety, I thought that you had the big loud rescued and you stomped and you clapped at the same time, and that definitely added to the climax of the speech. It definitely added to the flavor of the speech. I would have liked to see two things. I would have liked a longer speech, to be honest. I would have liked perhaps a bigger build up to the climax. You could have spent a little bit more time there, and some more quieter movements, some more quieter uses of your voice. But overall, I would say that you are an axiomatically great speaker, and the speech was axiomatically great.
Our technical table, starting with our awe counter. Hearing how we do.
Rich, 5 ahs, 2 ums, 2 so's, 1 double clutch. Ocarina, 1 ah. Lemar, 2 ahs, 1 7 so's, 10 ands, 2 tongue clicks. Sam, 1 3 so's. Julia, 1 ah, 1 Lori, 7 ums, 1 2 so's, 1 butt.
Not one great though.
Yeah.
Hadi's our big winner.
11
ahs,
Nice.
14 ums, 1 like, 4 2 so's, 2 ands, 1 double clutch. And Mike, 1
Gary. Man, our timer. How did you do? You got a tough roll today.
Lemar, 9 minutes, 22 seconds. Stephany, 5 minutes, 45 seconds. Hadi for table topics, 28 seconds. Mike, 40 seconds. Julia, 49 seconds. Guest, sorry, I don't know what your name is.
It's all right, Rida.
Okay, Rida, 30 seconds. Yay. Lori, 1 minute and 6 seconds. And I also did the speed speak, which was axiomatically the funniest, most entertaining section. Sam, 1 minute, 7 seconds. Hadi, 1 minute, 4 seconds. Steph, 1 minute, 28 seconds. Evaluators, Lori, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. And Hadi, 2 minutes, 45 seconds.
Great job. Setting up our technical table, our grammarian, Steve Morgan.
Madam General Evaluator, the word of the day was used by Rich, Sam, Mike, Lori, Hadi twice, Macarena, and Alexandra kind of spitted it out and heard it. Improvements for the English language. Rich wanted to turn the lectern over. Well, you didn't turn it over. You're gonna do it, you might as well do it. Sam, I'm a morning bird. I think you're one looking for early bird is generally the term. Stephany, you were talking about the boundaries for the game and said this parameter, and I think given what you described, the plural should have been these parameters. The other interesting uses that we caught, as if it was a platypus. Grammatically, actually, you did do that correctly. And as for the pronunciation of the word of the day, it is axiomatic, not oximus. Rita, thank you for telling us it's always good to torture the kids a little bit. Lemar for showing us when Siri's not available. Stephany not having enough torture in her life, so she volunteered for some more. Julia keeping the story clean. Lori, that's what you always look like, but you said that. You didn't use great, you avoided to use great, but you also used, you're really, really good at that. I mean, hands were well fixed. I'm not sure what that meant. And of course, all economics is based on a bunch of crap.
Meeting. I will be brief about it. Absolutely stupendous job, Rich. You really add so much energy, as you always do. Great improv on the extra speed.
Masterful.
I will say, keep track of time and watch your time on the agenda. You really didn't have time to do that, but it was entertaining and you wouldn't have missed it for the world. Manual. Lemar, bring your manual.
Oh, yeah.
Because she didn't have it, and you want to make sure you get credit for your speeches. Room was set up thanks to Alexandra and Stephen in the morning, or Stephen this morning, and absolutely loved the meeting. It is time, 2 minutes, for our president to give us our business. So please welcome to the lectern, Ms. Erica Benfield.
Thank you, Julia. Gus is still out of town today, so I just want to make a note that we have some guests today. Have we gotten their information? No. All right, can I have Lori to take notes as we have them introduce themselves, starting with mom that tortures kids? Please stand up and tell us how you guys did and what you thought of the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rida, and it's Rida with a D, so R-I-D-A. I thought the meeting was very, a lot of high energy, which was great. I've been looking at Toastmasters actually for a while now, and just haven't made the effort to be here until today, so I'm glad I actually came. Really, we're not doing that, right? Okay, wonderful. So, and I really want to find out more about, everything that you're doing and hopefully be a part of it, so.
Fantastic.
Thank you for
so
having
we'll get
me.
with you after the meeting.
That would be great. Thank you.
I, for some reason, thought there was 2 guests. Am I missing?
Yeah, bring her here.
Oh, Calvin.
I think she was effective. Okay. I really appreciate at least the speaker that spoke today, and what was really stood out to me was that little speed game thing you guys did. That was pretty interesting. And Sharknado is definitely one of the best movies ever made.
Thank you, Kevin.
Sharp needle, you know, whatever.
I also want to point out that I received this wonderful ribbon in the mail. It is for our last term, I believe, where we had 9 members sign up in 7 days. Paid their dues, and dues are due, so if anyone has a check today, that would greatly be appreciated. Who has the schedule floating around here right now for next week? If I could have that brought to me, since I have 30 seconds. I just want to make a note, because we do have guests, and keeping it clean, it's all in good fun when we're in here to be ourselves. We all know each other very well as we grow on our speech journey. However, when we do have guests, and if you plan on speaking in front of a larger audience, you kind of have to keep it neutral at times. So in keeping it clean, I made note that the word crap was used today, BS. HELL and God was used. So some suggestions to replace the word crap, you could use ridiculousness or foolishness, as well as the BS word. When you're saying what in the, you could say in the world, and instead of oh my God, you could say oh my goodness. So those are just a few suggestions that if you are trying to put yourself in front of a larger audience, that you may want to keep it neutral. Who has the schedule for next week? Where did it go?
She handed it to you.
I have it. Okay. Let me tell you, I don't know how I'm here this morning. It's a miracle that I'm here. I missed my exit. It was a nightmare. So here we go. The 17th, Toastmaster, Carrie Bird, Speaker 1, Macarena, Speaker 2, Ernst, Speaker 3, Hadi, Table Topics Master, Nicole, General Evaluator, Lori, Evaluator 1, Jessica, Evaluator 2, Julia, Evaluator 3, Martin, Odd Counter, Jeff Campana. I haven't seen him in a while. Okay. Grammarian, Stephany, Timer, Sam Bailey, and it says mentor training directly following all mentors and prospective mentors. You signify your intent to attend. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Just said it. Mentor training next week. All mentors and prospective mentors. Please let me know so you can have, I have some materials for you and I'll bring it. It's not going to be long. Directly following, but you got to do it. Okay? Thank you.
Fantastic. Everyone have a great week, and just a reminder that, Stephen, is it next month that we have the meeting at the Florida Hotel? Is it April or May? I'm losing
So the
my mind.
conference is May.
May
29th.
May 29th. I'm just going to keep plugging it in.
We have
so that
area,
we're
this
using it.
area contest is March 8th. Right.
50-50. How much money?
We have a whopping $3.
$3. Anybody else want to buy a ticket last minute? No? All right. Well, let's see. The winner gets to use that money and buy a real Florida lottery ticket. You just never know. I'm going to have our guest Rida pull a ticket. And the winning number is 230084. I like to torture you. 3. Woohoo! Awesome.
Either way you lose. Buy all the tickets.
All right, everyone. Thank you for coming on this extra hour morning.